Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the Racecraft Simulations V8 Veterans for the Split 2 action of Season 22 here this evening for Round 9 of this season, live from one of our first of the final two home circuits of the season, out at Sandown Motor Raceway here in Springvale, Victoria. I'm your commentator Hamish Munro, joined as always by the 6 times V8 Vets champion with 50 plus wins next to his name, Scott Gamble. Scotty, Sandown, a big tough challenge, a big tough task for these drivers here this evening. The last time we were here, season 20 for the final round, saw the championship absolutely stolen out of the hands of Steve Lanyon, where he'd driven a perfect season to that date. He made some minor mistakes and John Gallen walked away with the title that season. Tonight, for championship leader Logan Barnett, who has not lost the orange number next to his name all season. He'll be hoping that he can continue his winning ways and get a 6th win on the board for the season to match the current record held by Rick Sibra and Stephen Kennedy here in Split 2. But first of all, Scotty, second last round of the season. How you going, good sir? And you're looking forward to tonight's racing.
Yeah, how you going, Hamish? And welcome to all those out in the YouTube chat. Quite a few in there tonight already, Hamish. But yeah, I'm very well. I'm looking forward to this race. Sandown, we're back in the great state of Victoria, as you know. We're both Victorians, we love it here, and we definitely love Sandown, and it's an epic finish to this season, having Sandown and Phillip Island the following week. But yeah, you mentioned about Logan Barnett. He's absolutely dominated this season so far, so we'll be interested to see if he can continue on with his winning ways. He has been challenged at times by several other drivers throughout there, so it's going to be an interesting race. The drivers have, they've started to get the feel, Hamish, of this new Gen 3, and it's, it's starting to show on tracks as we see drivers move up and down the championship rankings.
Well, at the moment, depending how things shape up tonight, it may look more and more like that the only contender to Logan Barnett of Phillip Island for the 300k endurance race next week will be Jason Spriggs. But it's all going to be dependent on how things go tonight, how well Logan does, how well Jace does, and how well those other drivers like Dean Logsdale do in their quest for championship glory. The big news coming into this race, of course, there's a couple of little news snippets that we need to walk through. First of all, Matt Muggleton out of this race due to knee surgery, may miss the final round of the season as well, which would take him out of contention for top 5 in the championship. Quite possibly. It's based on best 8 performances for the season, so he still could be up there, but he may not finish top 5 overall for himself after drop rounds are included. We then look at the fact of, who can realistically get away from this race with some positive performances. I think qualifying is going to be absolutely crucial. It's tough to pass around here. It's tough to get moves done, especially when it's only 150 Ks, 49 laps. That's going to be the real test for these drivers tonight, is getting themselves prepped, getting qualifying done and dusted, getting themselves into a quality position to then get some good solid points in the final droppable round before we head across about an hour away from here to Phillip Island next week for 300 Ks in the final round of the championship.
Yeah, absolutely. There's been some standout performances so far coming into round 9. We've seen Dean Logsdale. He's been, really strong in that back half position. We've mentioned it quite a few times. A couple others who have driven very, very well. We've seen Jim Caparonis. He's found a bit of a resurgence there, Hamish, I feel. And, he's starting to find himself consistently back into that top 10, which we know he can drive at. He is a former Split 1 driver. Jason Spriggs, you mentioned about Jason. He's just driven super consistent and maximised his positions. And that really has put him into a championship contention. Yes, he has to get past Logan, but at the same time, he's still in there with a chance at it. So really, really good to see. And Matt Muggleton, he may see himself, like you mentioned, with that top 5 to go to Split 1. Unfortunately for him, I don't know whether he'll make that final round, and that could be really, why risk your health when you've had such a major surgery as he has. But he has shown, especially again in that back half of this season, Hamish, how well he's come on and how strong. And if he runs around in Split 2 again next season, he's going to be a real contender for this split.
He really will, but also as well, why push yourself too hard in a tougher split when you've got a fresh knee that needs to recuperate properly? It's a smaller turnaround this season. We don't get that long break that we had between the end of round 1 and the start of round 2 for this season. Season 23 is a very quick turnaround. We, of course, end next week in week 12 of iRacing. Then it's week 13. Then it's week 1. Then we're going again for week 2. Currently penciled in to be Sebring, I believe, is what the scheduled first round is at this stage. But let's have a quick gander, because tonight's track is a tough one. It's well known, of course, here in Victoria, Sandown International Motor Raceway. One that I've been to many a times for a personal experience and just to come and check this place out. It is a phenomenal, phenomenal track. There you see, not too far south, next week's track, Phillip Island, here in Victoria as well. We do the double for the next 2 weeks here in Vic, so the teams don't have to travel very far in between the races. How's that going to manage their fatigue in terms of learning these circuits and learning these cars and these setups as well? 3.1 Ks is the track length, of course, 1.9 miles for the old language. This layout's been used ever since 1984, of course. 13 turns, it's anti-clockwise. It's short, it's sharp, it's incredibly quick, but it's incredibly technical as well. It all starts on the main straight. Turn 1, one of the toughest points of the track that you can get yourself set up for. If you wreck turn 1, you can wreck the whole lap, Scotty. So getting yourself through turn 1, absolutely crucial. Then getting yourself up through 2 and 3, and then dancing the car through 4. This first sector, incredibly important, because it sets you up for the rest of the lap. It sets up your mentality for the rest of the lap, but it also sets up how you're going to approach the rest of the lap based on how well you've run through those first 4 corners.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll have to watch that, especially off the start. That could be some congestion through those four corners. But then we've got that long back straight, and it is all about getting off turn 4, maximising your traction, not getting that wheel spin. Very easy to do. Maybe get on the get a bit excited as the tyres wear off and the car can go around you. We could see some cars pointing the wrong way there as this race goes on. Big run all the way up to turn 6. Now, turn 6 is somewhere you can overtake if you can get the overlap in, and you do need the other driver you're overtaking to be a little bit compliant with you and help you out with it. And then it's a tight little one through the S's. You can get right up over the curb. As long as you're touching your left-hand side on those 2 curbs, you can get some air over there, Hamish, and then you're hard onto the brakes into Dandenong Road. What a corner is Dandenong Road. It's all about applying the brake, getting the rotation of the car. It's one of these corners that it's famous for Sandown, and I'll watch that one with interest in how drivers navigate it tonight.
Yeah, of course, there are a multitude of drivers that took place in the Sandown 500 last December on iRacing as well. So they have had some previous experience in the Gen 2 car at least. Plus it was in the officials leading up to this race as well for Gen 3. So they have, at least if they run officials, had some experience around here in that car. But they should have a multitude of experience across multiple car classes, across multiple series, multiple leagues, whatever it is. They should have a lot of laps under their belt at Sandown. Turn 9, as you mentioned, incredibly, it's a very tough corner. You've got to have tenacity. You've got to have some persona about you when approaching that corner, but you've got to be patient as well. You can't just send it in because it's going to end badly. The run through 10, which is kind of a false corner, but up towards 11, 12, and 13, the one spot we're going to have to look for through that section is drivers trying to climb curb over each other and then getting caught out between each other through 11 and 12, and then that causing off tracks. And then as well, the pit entry at turn 13. We've seen a multitude of drivers get caught out by the pit entry at this circuit, not being ready for the fact that a driver right in front of them that they followed through the final corner is going into pit lane, because the pit entry is right on the racing line. So drivers are going to have to be a little bit cautious about that. If they know when the pit stop sort of strategy areas are, which tonight it's pretty much between lap 12 and lap 18 for the first stop, and then anywhere between lap 30 and lap 40 for the second stop. If you know that those are the regular stop times, most likely for regular strategies tonight, then you know that on those laps you're just not going to follow directly behind someone right on the pit entry, because there may be a chance that they go in and they don't tell you. But it's going to be a tough task. It's a tough circuit, of course. 150 Ks around here, 49 laps, so it's a lot of laps. We've got a high chance of safety car as well, but what I think we've got a high chance for is actually some phenomenal racing. Sandown always has something about it, Scott. It always has something about it in terms of giving us some great racing, and it always has something about it in terms of getting us to a crescendo of a fantastic end to the season. And I think next week at Phillip Island, we know how chaotic Phillip Island can be. We've seen it before. But I think that's really going to be just a phenomenal way to end this season of being at Sandown. You know, it's a driver's track, and then you go to Phillip Island next week, another driver's track, 300 Ks, 68 laps. It's going to be tough, but I think it's going to be a phenomenal way to end this championship. And I think for Logan Barnett is to come into this round of Phillip Island next week with the same mentality of just keep it clean, keep it on the track, and try and get yourself a good result. He doesn't necessarily need wins. He just needs some positive results, maybe around the top 10, and he should lock out this championship for himself.
Yeah, absolutely. He's in prime position. Like I mentioned, he's dominated all season, really, and driven incredibly well. I mean, he's done the hard work as well, Hamish, and he's had a point to prove, and I'm pretty sure he's proven that so far. But yeah, I'm absolutely love Sandown as a track. It's a great one to drive. You mentioned about that pit lane entry. There is a possibility of contacts through there, although I did notice the line had changed for drivers coming onto the straight with this Gen 3 car. So it's a little bit, you sort of square it up a little bit earlier than what you normally would, running it out wider, what we did in the Gen 2. Gen 2, you used to come off that last turn, or second last turn, if you want to call it, and really you're pointing the car at pit entry. With this one here, you're still rotating the car a little bit because you need to straighten it up so you can get on the accelerator, and that's what gives you a little bit more speed here in this car. But yeah, it's going to be interesting. Going to be a very, very entertaining to see, because this is the last potential drop round drivers could do. So drivers will have that in the back of their head, Hamish, where they'll be thinking, hey, I need a good result. I don't want to bung it tonight. I want to be able to drop perhaps a round that I didn't do so well in previously, and use tonight as a counted round.
Yeah, you've had two previously very poor rounds. The pressure's on you tonight to get a positive result if you've had all good rounds thus far this season, like Jason Spriggs, who's in his championship fight, hasn't finished outside of the top 10, mind you, in every single round he's raced in, Scott. All 8 rounds up to this point, he's been inside the top 10. Championship rival Logan Barnett has had 1 race where he finished outside the top 10, but he's taken 5 wins to his name. Jason has taken none. So they come into this round in a very similar scenario that you find yourself in going into the final round next week in Split 1, where Jordan has taken 5 wins and you've taken none this season, but the separation of points is a bit further for you guys in Split 1 than for these guys, because they've managed to be close together all season. You missed a couple of rounds, obviously, as well. Had a little bit of bad luck, but it's amazing how you can get similarities and similar stats going into a final round of the season, but how certain little nuances in the championship can actually change it up. And it's the same across all 4 splits. You can get similar stats in the front end of town in all 4 splits, but very different scenarios at play in terms of who's going to be where come the final round.
Yeah, absolutely. It is an interesting scenario. Come the final round, you've got to finish it. So you need a good result tonight leading into the non-drop round next week. So that's really an important factor in the way the V8 vets have set up these series, is that last round, a non-drop round. So it has to count. And drivers, you could be 100 odd points in front, but if you do not complete 75% of that last race, then that title is long gone and you will find yourself not winning it. So you want to have everything dialed, everything ticked coming into the last round.
You do indeed. Starting grid, though, for tonight's race is as follows. Championship leader Logan Barnett, who has not lost the orange number off his car all season, will start pole once again ahead of Dave Arney after an incredible qualifying. He'll start on the front row. They'll start ahead of Dean Logsdale and Chad Viger for your top 4 with Lorne Mackay and Wayne Sanderson. The top 6, Stacey Boyd and championship contender Jason Spriggs will start inside the top 8 with Chris Blanchard and Jim Caperonis making up the top 10. Damon Fisher, Paul Burns will start out of P11 and P12 with the 7th row lining up for Rick Viger and Brett Taylor, Simon Haynes and Sean Vandermeulen for your top 8 rows on the grid. This is Sean's second last race in Nova Sim Sports colours before next season when he moves over to 9.5 Sim Sports. Jamie Peters will line up in this race once again in his Infinity Motorsport car in his second last round for Infinity Motorsport before he goes to be a privateer once again for season 23. Adrian Zeal, his neighbour, will start alongside him on the road as they live together as well down in Rye. Matt Stoyle, Shane Randall will make up the top 20 with Ricky Hyde, Todd Duggan, Sean Cullen and Mick Clifton for your top 24 cars. As we move back to Andrew Hoffman, Derek Lovegrove, Scott Weston, Troy Sipple, Jeremy Bush, Brett Fisher for your top 30, Richard Barella, Daniel Sheriffs. The last of the cars set times in qualifying with Nick Hasler starting at the back of the grid, the only car to not set a time in qualifying. But for Logan Barnett, he starts this race on pole, and he starts this race alongside Dave Arney, who's not in the championship hunt, but with Dean Logsdale directly behind that 9.5 Sim Sports car.
Yeah, that is absolutely cracking to see Dave Arney up there from Pacific Esports Racing. That is to get on the front row, be ahead of Logsdale, Viger, Mackay. You know, he's done a sensational job here, Hamish, and that is absolutely awesome of him and should be congratulated with it. A couple other good drivers. Lorne Mackay got himself back up into the top 5 on the starting grid. Well done.
Yeah, exactly. BG86 asking, do you have to have original livery or can you run a trading paints one? I'm not sure if there's limitations on that, but there's plenty of paint companies out there who can do one for you if you're looking for a custom one. I do that myself for Black Art Designs. There's also RSW Graphics out there. A couple others too that do liveries. So plenty of people to reach out to, plenty of people who can help you out as well. We're just waiting for lights to go up and for the revs to rise at Sandown for round number 9. Final droppable round of the season. Barnett and Arney on the front row. Let's go racing once again. There was a jump start further back, Scott, of Todd Duggan that I saw on the timing, so he'll have to run with a drive-through in this race. But for Barnett and Logsdale, they have rocketed away, and Dave Arney has absolutely bogged it up in behind us. There's already contact further back. Cars scrambling in towards turn 2 as Peters is spun round by Brett Taylor, and cars have to go each here or everywhere to take avoiding action as Daniel Sheriffs is also having to pull it up with damage on the front of that car. But for Barnett, It was a perfect start as he's now built the gap out to above a second.
Yeah, that car absolutely jumped off the line there for 9.5 Sim Sports of Logan Barnett. He nailed that start. So did Dean Logsdale. He got a great start. Unfortunately, Dave Harney, he dropped 5 positions there. He just missed the takeoff from that. Jason Spriggs, all importantly though, Hamish, got himself up 2 positions off the start line, up into P6 at this stage.
He's got Wayne Sanderson ahead of him, who's in top 5 contention this season. Could find himself in a slot to get up towards split 1 for season 23 as well. Lorne Mackay, he's been quiet this season, as is Chad Viger, but they're here for personal glory tonight, not for championship glory it seems. But for Barnett, this gap is starting to build. It's nearly out to 2 seconds, and it's almost looking like he could run away with this thing, get himself on the record books, equal with Rick Sibber and Stephen Kennedy with 6 wins. I mean, 49 laps. Still a long way to go, of course, and it could take any mistake that could cost him. But if he gets that 6th win, he goes into next week at Phillip Island, where he doesn't need a win to win the championship. But if he does win, he will be the only driver to ever win 7 rounds in one season of split 2 action in the V8 Veterans, which is absolutely unheard of. But last season, we broke a curse. We broke the fact that the round 1 winner never went on to win the title. Steve Grumley broke that curse. Do we break the record this season of most wins in a single season by one driver? Well, if Barnett wins tonight, it's on the cards. If he doesn't, then the best he can do is match the record with 6. But at the moment, he's looking incredibly strong with 2.3 seconds of a gap over Dean Logsdale. He's got Chad Viger, Lorne Mackay, Wayne Sanderson, Jason Spriggs hot on his tail. Blanchard's now made his way past Arnie. So Arnie looking more like Scotty, that he had the good qualifying pace, but he's just struggling to get this thing up to race pace at this point. But he may need to get into his rhythm. He might be a little bit more disheveled after the poor start.
Yeah, he's going to have to go onto an alternate strategy now. Not ideal from the front row all the way back there. He's got Blanchard in front of him. Looks like Lorne Mackay is going backwards. He's stuck there on Dandenong. So that's an interesting one there, Hamish. I'm not sure what happened. I kind of missed that one.
Yeah, there's been a couple that have been happening as Peters is off the road as well down at turn 2, 3. So he's struggling at this stage. He finally figured out his wheel issues as that's Lorne Mackay spun round at turn 4. So he's having to get that car going once again. Peters has finally figured out his steering issues. It was a firmware issue that he had, and he then came to the conclusion that he was actually going to finish the season with Infinity Motorsport before moving on for season 23 and get back into doing some privateer driving, because he could not commit to a more team-based thing, as he wants to put more commitments towards life outside of the sim as well. We also have to give a shout out Jason DiBattito, who gave the news today that he unfortunately is stepping away from sim racing altogether. He's now sold the rig and packed it all up. Of course, he's been around the vets for quite a fair while. Of course, one of the mainstays of Split 2 for quite a few seasons for Jason. So it's a shame to see Jace go away, but I know that his HSR drivers will try and do their best to continue to do strong things on the track here in the vets, and at least try and bring some quality performances home to that team.
Yeah, it is sad to see a long-time member of the V8 Veterans, take a break. I would like to say it is, Hamish. We were talking about this earlier. There is quite a few people who have been down that path, myself included, where, sometimes it's good to have a little bit of a break, maybe a year or 2 away and refresh, and then go, you know what, I do miss sim racing, but it is an expensive hobby or sport, some might want to call it, to get back into, especially the way that equipment has, technology has jumped over the last few years within sim racing.
What was Jason Spriggs at this stage? He sits P5 on the road now, Scotty, just behind Wayne Sanderson. So trying to chase down a further position in this race, but a top 5 performance. It'll be respectable for Jace because he's not giving up too many points to Logan in their championship hunt. But realistically, he needs to get up to P2. He needs to only give up a few points to Logan in this race if Logan were to win, to try and keep the pressure on him into Phillip Island next week. And at the moment, P5 is probably not good enough to try and put a real challenge into this championship.
No, it isn't. It's not going to keep him. Well, he's going to lose points to where he'd like to be, which obviously would be P1 or P2, and Logan to be behind him. He'd like that preferably. But what we've seen with Spriggs is that he has just been consistent. He looks like he's consolidated his position at the moment. Wayne Sanderson, he's been driving exceptionally well for Southern Cross Racing. been holding his own, perhaps not going up positions or going down positions throughout a race, but definitely holding his own amongst these drivers, which is a strong contingency of him at this stage. So, yeah, you talked about it in the early stages, Hamish, about how hard it is to pass, and Gen 3 has lent itself to one of these cars that perhaps a little bit more difficult to pass, but Sandown is notorious for it. So you're going to have to work as a driver for these overtakes done tonight.
Yeah, well, we've seen a multitude of times that drivers will be around each other every single week on track, and it will take more or less their strategy to get overtakes done, namely Adrian Zeal, Shane Randall, becoming no strangers to each other on track. They are usually either one's behind the other or one's ahead of the other each week and week out, and then it comes down to the pit stops of who gets in front of who, when they take their pit stops, how long those pit stops are to try and get the moves done, because it is just so tough to get overtakes done out on track for these drivers in these cars, because unless you've got the run out of a corner and you've got the pace down the straight, it's so hard to get it. And if you aren't willing to send it up the inside of a driver, or you've got the run into the inside of a corner, you can't just create an opportunity for yourself like the Gen 2 car. You have to wait for the opportunity to come your way almost.
Yeah, you do. I mean, I've been guilty of having a send or two, and I don't mind having one, I can admit it. And a few drivers have tried it as well, and you get called out. You'll get penalised the way the system is and the way the rule book is with overlap. So you get found out very quickly and, get on the naughty list. But so you really do have to commit to that overtake, Hamish. And like you mentioned, you've got to have that little bit of a mistake in front. You've got to have that run, get that power down. And there's a couple of areas where drivers can do this. Coming out of the last turn, that will be a good one. Coming out of turn 4, just there, a little bit of wheel spin as we are on board with Jim Caparonis. He's gone to the inside there. So he's got, at the moment, Paul Burns is right beside him, Hamish. This could be on. They're almost even here. Paul Burns has decided to back out of it, let Jim take it on the inside. Didn't want to fight that one too hard, but that was an overtaking opportunity there, and you need the two cars to be compliant with each other to make it happen.
Yeah, of course, driver's eye available with some drivers throughout the field. Paul Burns, one of them, inside the Chevrolet Camaro of 801 Sim Racing. Paul's been having a pretty solid run this season for himself in the 110 car. He struggled the previous few seasons in Split 2, but it's good to see him back in positive form and back inside the top 10 as well. A driver that previously has been in contention for this championship, and it'd be good to see him back up there, as well as, his teammates Ricky Hyde and Matt Scholes as well. Be good to see them in contention once again. It's really more or less going to come down to how well they can get suited to these cars, if the calendar suits them, and if a bit of luck goes their way as well. Same thing can be said for Jim Caparonis. I mean, he's been in championship contention before. The last time he went up to Split 1 was when he was in championship contention. So to see him do well again will be pretty sought after for the crowd out there, I'm sure. Chris Blanchard, I mean, he's not been in Split 2 for very long, and he's kind of waiting for his opportunity to get back into Split 1, but he's got to try and put a complete season together. Hasn't really been in championship winning form this season, so maybe he just needs a bit more time to get used to the Gen 3 car and get back into that promotion zone of top 5 come the end of season 23 leading into season 24.
It's an interesting one you mentioned about Chris. He's shown some good pace throughout this season, and other times just hasn't been there. Whether he's had some equipment things, like you mentioned, adapting to this new supercar, and the fixed setups that go with it perhaps weren't to his liking. But, it is one of those things, as drivers, we have to adapt to it, we have to change, and each week there's slight variants which keep you focused and changing, especially with fixed setups. And that is a really selling point for this league, which a lot of drivers really do like. And we've got to say a big thank you to Jamie McKnight and his crew out there that are there providing these fixed setups for these series. He does a wonderful job. It's very time consuming, and he provides them where a lot of people are happy with them, and that's what makes the racing and why this league is kind of successful in its own right there, Hamish, I would say, is because everyone feels they're on an even playing field.
Yeah, of course, they're running the same setup. The only difference is the brake bias, which is all personal preference of how they like to get the car to perform best for them each week. And I know this season that Madison Down's come on board to help with the setups as well of this car, being that it's fresh and it's new, and it's taken a little bit of learning to figure out how to best set this car up. But I'm sure eventually Jamie will just take the reins and make the setups on his own. But I think it's really good to have Madison involved in the series in that way. Of course, he would be, I don't know how many years away from 40, but once Madison joins the series, once he hits the age of 40, it's going to be tough for anyone to beat him out there. But there are some very quick drivers in the series, but Madison's one of the fastest in Australia. James Scott, he's a similar time length away from it as well. Ryan Lienage won't be in this series for another 16 or 15 years, or 25 years actually, so you're fine about that. Then of course race controller Ty Delaney's not going to be in the series for the same amount of time, so they're the next generation of fast drivers of, James Scott, Emily Jones, Madison Down. They're less than a decade away, or roughly a decade away. And then you've got those young kids who are coming up the rankings now. They're a long while away from being in vets, and by the time they're in, majority of the field probably won't be in vets anymore, and it'll be a completely different kettle of fish.
Funny you mentioned about the age. I think Madison may have about 8 years left to go to come into it, as we see Jim Caparonis coming in for an early pit stop here, Hamish. So he's got a strategy. Maybe he felt he was being held up. Could be looking to come out into fresh air, make some ground here. So the undercut is on. There is a tyre drop off. Getting back to that age difference there. I think James Scott is quite a bit younger than Madison Down, mate. I believe he might even be early 20s. So he's got quite some time away. But I was making a comparison between ages the other day, and I said to someone, well, when Madison gets into V8, Jordan will still be younger than what I am. So at this stage, so the age does play a difference. It was really good to see how the V8 vets have introduced that new series, Hamish, that was a complete success with the over 60s. I believe we've got the over 50 drivers only next season, so that's going to be absolutely superb. And then for season 3, we'll have over 40s only. Just a little separate series that they're running on the side with 4 rounds or so. So that's a good one to keep an eye on.
And I believe it's limited to the decade, isn't it? So it's over 50s, but it's 50 to 59.
Correct.
Yeah. And then obviously the season after, season 24, would be 40 to 49. So, maybe it gets to the point where Vets does a special event at the end of the year, and the drivers are all separated into age classes, and then you have age winners out there possibly.
Yeah, I like that idea. It's something that floated around. I'm not sure how they make that work, but there is an age barriers to us all as you age, and some of us are quite rapidly. You do notice that, but it is an interesting concept. I really liked that they're doing it. Adds a little bit of variety, and it was an absolute success for the over 60s. Looked like they thoroughly enjoyed it too, so that was the main thing, and gave them a little bit of race practice too, Hamish, heading into a Thursday night V8 Veterans race.
Yeah, exactly, and help them get, as you mentioned, that race practice in. Some leagues do run officials, but they don't run exactly in line with vets, so it's a bit harder to get race practice in before Thursday. So that age one gave them a bit of a boost in terms of getting themselves prepared for the next round. We may see that those drivers, as Shane Randall has spun round at turn 9 down at Dandenong Road, dropping a heap of spots. We saw him behind Adrian Zeal before, and now he is dropping down the order. There is some damage on the back of that car. I don't know if there was any contact or if he's done that on his own, but he's definitely in struggle street. In fact, I think that damage is actually from lap 1 at the absolute pile up at turn 2. But now he's dropped a heap of spots. He's back below 2 spots from where he started this race in P22 now, and has some work to do to get back up the order.
Yeah, there definitely is damage on that rear bumper. Unsure on how it happened. Been a real shame for Shane. He's found himself, with a few of these, whether they're self-inflicted or whether he's been involved in other incidents that wasn't his own throughout the season. And it's put him on the back foot early in the race, and it's all been about recovery. One that rings a bell to me, Red Bull, was one where I think he got, found himself in a little bit of trouble early, put him on an alternate strategy for the rest of the race. But he's a driver, I think, that could do quite well and actually find himself potentially in the top 15 if he could find that little bit more confidence and string together, some of these incidents that he's been finding throughout these races.
How's he going to go next season, do we think, Scott, now that he'll be running around without a teammate in this split? At this stage, it would take his teammate James Boardman in split 3 to get inside the top 5 after Phillip Island to join him, seeing as Jamie is leaving that team. And, Shane's previously been on his own in split 1. Do we think he can handle himself on his own in split 2 next season? I mean, He does have a spotter at least, but do you think he's going to maybe flourish because of that, or do you think he'll flourish once James is good enough to get into the top 5 and make his way back up to split 2 and join him in this split?
Yeah, it's an interesting one that you mentioned, and I talk about it quite often, how I believe having a teammate there of similar pace can help other drivers push along and also use the strategy. We've seen a perfect example, and I reference back to Red Bull again with the Angry Birds racing team. They drove absolutely beautifully there as teammates and gained positions and worked well together. And, Nick Horsley come away with a driver of the day from that. So that was a fantastic effort by them. So yes, absolutely teammates do help. But talking about Shane Randall, I think he has the experience, Hamish, to be able to run on his own in split 2. He did it in split 1. I think he can definitely run on his own in split 2. I just feel that he's probably lacking a little bit of confidence at the moment, and that comes and goes. And driving in the V8s, it is very much a confidence thing. When you're in a purple patch, you go really well and you get excellent results. And it doesn't take much to have a few bad rounds, and it takes a little while sometimes to turn that around.
Well, there are rumours at the moment that there is another driver joining this team in split 3 next season. Scotty, it's not quite able to reveal that one yet, I don't think, from that team, but definitely rumours of them expanding to, well, not expanding, but more or less filling the slot that Jamie Peters has now opened up for season 23 by bringing in another driver into this crew and trying to help them move forward. Obviously, Ray Smith in split 4 has been having a spectacular season, so he'll be hoping to try and move his way back up to split 3 next season. If he does, and James is not able to get into the top 5 for this season, that would make, with Will coming back, if he were to remain in split 3 after he only did, I think, 1 race this season, that would, I think, make 5 drivers in split 3 for this team, and then 1 in split 2 in Shane Randall. So we'll see how that works out. We'll see if they're able to help each other in split 3, and if Shane can do well enough in split 2 to stay up once again. But at this stage, there's also another team that's been expanding. That's Andrew Hoffman's SCR, as they have picked up, I noticed on the sign-ups, Vaughan Robinson for next season as well.
They have definitely been going about their business and recruiting the drivers. Got some fantastic drivers in there, some really good experience. We know there's a new livery. We mentioned that last week, and we got Hoffy back into the chat saying they've got something special coming along for next season. So that's going to be absolutely fantastic to see a nice livery on that Southern Cross Racing team, which is growing, almost week by week at times, and they're definitely growing in confidence and race pace. With at this stage, I would say Jim Caperonis leading the bunch of drivers there.
Yeah, I think, Jim, I think, Wayne's really proven this season. He came up from split 3.
Absolutely.
He has really gelled with this Gen 3 car. I mean, we saw that Trent Allen has gelled with this car well. He's missed the majority of this season, unfortunately. He did win a race this season, though, as did Scotty Van Loon, who's away once again. And looks like Scotty will most likely stay in split 2, as will Trent. Both those guys, they're contenders for the championship, but it's all going to come down to who the drivers are that come down from split 1 next season. That's going to be dependent on, of course, how many new sign-ups go into split 1 as well. But we need to remember that sign-ups are live. I mean, they're live now. They're live up until 5 p.m. next Thursday, Victorian time, for the current Vets members to re-sign up and get themselves locked into a spot before it goes public. And those drivers who haven't signed up or keep on putting it off, you want to get that in pretty quickly, because Thursday's going to come around before you know it. We're going to be at the final round, and you're going to realize you haven't actually locked your spot in just yet. If anyone's wondering how you get your sign-ups in, if you can't see the Season 23 channels, there is a Browse Channels section of the V8 Veterans League Discord server. You click on Browse Channels, you scroll down, you find where it says Season 23, and there's a little checkbox which is Follow Category. You check that. You'll see every channel for Season 23, which also includes the sign-up section, which is S23 registration. That's where you register, and you pay your fee to the email for PayPal, and then you're locked into next season. So, we want to try and get everyone back out there once again that we can from this season, as drivers are heading into pit lane. Lap 18 is pretty much the end of the pit strategy at this point for a lot of drivers, but there are still some that need to come in. But you want to get those sign-ups done. You want to get yourself sorted for next season. You want to come racing once again. It's a cracking calendar that has been put forward to iRacing, with us half scheduled to start at Sebring at this stage. I'm pretty sure it's Sebring that's penciled in for round 1 for vets, which is week 2 of the officials. But you want to lock in your spot, Scotty, because it's going to be a spectacular season. Second season in the Gen 3 car. It's only going to get bigger and better from here. There's been some phenomenal racing this season, so why would you want to miss out when you could go racing once again?
Absolutely. Get your entries in, and looking forward to, there'll be a lot of new drivers in there too. There's quite a few frothing to get on the V8 Veterans bandwagon. A lot of pit stops underway. Hamish, Barnett, Spriggs, Blanchard, Weston, Stoyles, Horsler, they're all in pit lane at the moment. One of interest of the top running drivers that I noticed, Wayne Sanderson, he had a very long pit stop, Hamish. He dropped 11 positions. He came out just in front of his teammate, Jim Caparonis. We see Logan Barnett getting underway. Where will Jason Spriggs come out? This is going to be a key factor for him. He does not want traffic. He definitely wants to get out in front, have some clear air, utilise the pace that we know he has.
Well, he's going to come out just ahead of Sean Vandermeer, and he gets around Matt Stoyles. So Jason Spriggs has come out with clean air, but he's come out behind Paul Burns. But Burns has taken 4 seconds less worth of fuel in that pit stop. But the really important thing to remember is tonight the critical lap was lap 1. So whenever they pit, as long as they pit twice, they can get home. It doesn't matter when they pit. They could pit on lap 2 and lap 3. They're going to make it home as Stacey Boyd comes into pit lane. Because you can make it home from lap 1 on 133 litres and you get home. So, you know, any lap that they pit in this race, as long as the tank can get them there, they can get home. So the limit was around about 19 or 20 laps for some drivers with fuel saving, roughly on a 2.75 or 2.7 laps per, or litres per lap burn. That was roughly about lap 19 or lap 20. Majority though obviously came in around about lap 18, as that would have been the regular pit stop strategy for them. We'll probably see them go out now to probably about laps 33 to lap 40 as well, which is a fair long way on tyres, but it actually evenly splits the race, because if you've come in on lap 18, you go to lap what would it be, lap 35 or 34, you've roughly got the similar amount of laps to get home at lap 49.
Yeah, it is an interesting, there's a few strategies going on. We mentioned it with the fuel loads. Something that to keep in mind, especially at Sandown, you've got that uphill run on the back straight where you can generate a lot of top end speed, is the fuel load, the weight in these cars with this lower aero car. It does affect your lap times. And so drivers will need to be aware and manage how they manage those fuel loads. So people that have taken an extra 10 to 20 litres to, say, someone in front of them, they're going to be on the back foot, slightly disadvantaged till they can burn off 20, 30 litres, and then they'll start to regain that pace that they're used to. But Logan Barnett, he's got a lap car in front of him at the moment. He's going to hope that he clears it. Blue flags can be a issue for some drivers. Hopefully we see him clear this very quickly, although it looks like it's just holding him up at this stage. He's made ground now, and looks like that Angry Birds car's got a bit of damage on the front right there, Hamish.
Yeah, just a little bit for Rick Viger. He's had a tough night at the office thus far. He came in fairly early on lap 2. So I have a feeling he might have actually been involved in that lap 1 incident down at turn 2, possibly. But for Logan Barnett, he has been steamrolling his way at the front of the field. 8.5 seconds is the gap back to Dean Logsdale in P2 at the moment. Chad Viger, Rick's brother and teammate, is 0.8 of a second behind Dean. Hopefully the blue flags do not become an issue, of course. We don't want it to become a team play thing where a teammate, similarly to the Daytona 24-hour and the WRT BMWs, holds up a positive position driver at the front of the field to give their teammate a benefit or an advantage. We want it to be fair racing for all, and, you know, I don't think Rick would ever do that, for sure. This is just this is a scenario we have on hand. We hate to see where blue flags has a very heavy effect on determining the progression of a race and determining the finish of a race as well. But I'm sure Chad wouldn't want that to happen. He'd want to try and race Dean to the end for this P2 or possibly P1 if Logan has a mistake or has a dropout. And, you know, they'd want to try and finish this on track, not in team strategy.
Yeah, absolutely. They did alter the rules there some time back. A lot of people still think it is 0.5 of a second that you have to give way to a blue flag, but it is actually 0.8, and you need to do that within a lap. So that is the rules. You see 0.8 of a second coming up, you know you've already got a blue flag in front of you. You have got 1 lap to the best of your ability to clear that. Obviously, sometimes it's not possible, Hamish. It just doesn't work out that way. But you clear it as quick as you can. So it's up to drivers keeping a good eye on that. At the moment, Logan Barnett, best lap time of a 107.840. Hamish, that would have put him in the top 10 for qualifying in split 1.
It's ridiculous, isn't it? He's pretty much locked himself into split 1 next season at this point. I mean, best day performances on average, he's had 5 wins to this point. Tonight, if he wins, it's 5 wins in the last. It's 4 wins in the last 5 rounds. Tonight would be a 6th win if he gets that done. You think about it, he takes 6 wins across best 8. That means the 2 other performances. Where does that put you? He's finished. If he finishes where he is tonight, this will be his 8th top 5 finish of the season. Every time he's finished in the top 10, 7 previously, he's finished in the top 5 this season, which is ridiculous. But if he does that, that's 8 top 10s, 8 top 5s to his name. He'd be locked into split 1. You'd have to argue, because the only other person that's close is Jason Spriggs. Or if he finishes where he is tonight, which is P6, it'd be his 9th top 10 of the season out of 9, and he's 8th. He's at 8 top 5s. So it's pretty ridiculous how that can work out.
It is, absolutely is. Some of the biggest movers inside the top 10 at the moment, ladies and gentlemen, is Matthew Stores from EWT Racing. He is up 9 positions, up into P10. Then we've got Sean Van der Meulen from Nova Sim Sports, soon to change teams at the end of the V8 Veterans series, or Series 22. He's up 9 positions into P7. That's a fantastic result. And Blanchard, Christopher Blanchard from WK and P Sim Sports, has got himself up into P4. He is up 5 positions, so that's a great result for Blanchy, up into the top 5 at this stage of the race.
We made the prediction coming into this season that Sean Van der Meulen would win a championship in 2025 for the Vets. He goes to 9-5 next season. Your team, Scotty. If he does win a title, that's 2 that your team has won in split 2 of Vets. I mean, if Barnett were to win, of course, it's not over yet. Final round is next week. But if Barnett were to win this season, and then Sean would go on to either win season 23, 24, or 25, that seems like a resurgence for 9-5 Sim Sports and the Veterans. And, I think going to this new team, no matter how well he's done at Nova, to me in a team where some of the fastest drivers in your team are in split 1, Logan, if he goes up, McNamara, yourself, that's got to be good for Sean. And that's got to be good to help him gain pace, gain confidence, and get himself up into a championship winning position.
Yeah, well, you have to remember Sean McNamara, the team boss over there, he has a recipe for breeding champions. And, we look at Dylan Rudd. He was originally from 9-5. He learned his trade there. And before he progressed over to Lobs Eve Sport, and then he won the Pro Series Invitational. Griffin Gardner, another one who has made his way through and doing extremely well. They're at a different team now, but another top 10 driver in the Pro Series, care of 9-5 Sim Sports as well. So there's quite a few drivers that have got through. There is a bit of a recipe going. We're going to work very hard with Sean. He's one of these motivated drivers, and that's something you look for, I guess, as you know, as a team owner, Hamish. You're looking for a motivated driver who's prepared to work extremely hard on their racing, listen, learn, and change things, because you do need to have a bit of a reset when you go to another team. You just can't come in there gun blazing. You've got to have a little reset on how you go about your racing, and under the guidance of Sean McNamara and a few others around the team, likes of Rick Customov. He's absolutely fantastic, top 10 driver in the Pro Series as well. He's going to be under good leadership there and hopefully push himself forward. It will take some time though, Hamish.
It will take time, and I think willingness to take time as well, and be, kind of have that willingness. As Damon Fisher has had a moment, and he's going to drop a spot, might even drop 2 with Stacey Boyd steamrolling past, as well as Matt Stoyles. Is he going to get eaten alive down towards turn 6? No, filters in just ahead of Wayne Sanderson, but Sanderson wants the spot now as well, up towards the inside of turn 6, on board with Sanderson. Fisher's still on his outside at the moment. Simon Haynes is just below this. He tucks up the inside of Fisher too. And in the span of a couple of corners, Damon Fisher has dropped from inside the top 10 as he's now spun it round as well.
Oh,
Down at turn 9.
That is unfortunate. And when it, it just snowballs from there. I was thinking earlier on, Hamish, how well Damon Fisher has been going over the last couple of rounds for Team AJR. And he just found himself, he had a great save really down earlier, but then it just cascaded from there. And that's really unfortunate for him. He's got to pick himself up now, maybe change a slight strategy, get himself into some clear air. He's got Derek Lovegrove. We don't really talk about Derek Lovegrove much from Misfits Racing Team as we see Fisher in to complete that second pit stop, get it done. It's a long way from home for him.
It is indeed. He will need fresh tyres on that car, maybe some fast repair on it too. Derek Lovegrove, though, you mentioned him, now inside of the top 10, top 20, up 8 positions in this race. He pitted on lap 2, though, so he's having to go a long way before his second stop in this race. He actually took a relatively short stop, only 14.9 seconds, so he's probably getting on the precipice of as far as he can go on this tank of fuel before he needs to come in for that second stop of the race. Troy Sipple, he's up 9 inside of the top 20 as well. He's got Brett Fisher, who's up 10 positions into P20. They've got Richard Barella also up 10 just in behind them. This battle looks to start to heat up a little bit as well towards the next part of this race. Lap 28 of 49 at the moment. We are past the halfway point of this race as Sips blows it up into Dandenong Road, off it into the sand trap, drops a heap of spots, including Jamie Peters, Brett Taylor, and the aforementioned Richard Barella and Brett Fisher. And now Sipple has to get back going again and try and get this thing back on the road and forward, with Andrew Hoffman starting to breathe down his neck. But further up inside the 10, Stoyles is now hunting down Stacey Boyd and Sean Vandermill, and he's got Wayne Sanderson in behind him as well. We're going to stick with this battle as we hear from our wonderful supporters from Racecraft Simulation for our scheduled ad break here out at Sandown. If you're over in the WA area or in Perth, head over to 19 Grogan Road to check out Racecraft Simulations, have a chat to John and the team. They might even be able to let you test out some of those rigs as well and see if you can get yourself a quality deal. You can also order them straight to your door if you live out of WA from Racecraft Simulations as well. So stick around. We'll be back very, very shortly as we hear from Racecraft Simulations. Great to be back, ladies and gentlemen, from the ad break brought to you by Racekraft Simulations. As I mentioned, head over to Grogan Road at Perth Airport if you are in the WA or Perth area and have a chat to John and the team. They'll be happy to help provide you with some testing on some rigs, or maybe even find you a deal on getting yourself some wonderful kit over at Racekraft Simulations. We have to give a shout out to all of our other series sponsors as well, including Logitech G, Parramatta Isuzu Ute, Nova Sim Sports, as well as Player One Sim Gear, Sud Speed Gloves, LGC Images, and Chubby Buns Burgers, providing us with the driver of the day. Last week it went to Nick Hasler. We were having a little chat during the ad break, Scotty, and we kind of came to the determination that the front runners at the moment is probably either Chris Blanchard, Scott Weston, or maybe Richard Barella and Brett Fisher if they were to finish where they are on the track at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. I think they're driving beautifully to see them, gain these positions on these tracks. It's no easy feat. There is a little bit of strategy there. You did say Nick Osler, he is the biggest mover, Hamish, up 22 positions into P14, and he had an even pit stop time last time round, you mentioned. So that is a fantastic result, and something we talk about, drivers getting that confidence, getting their mojo up about, and Nick has definitely got that going at the moment. He's right behind Adrian Zill. He's in the chat tonight. Big shout out to him. He's up 5 positions for Team AJR, but with the way that Nick is got the pace on at the moment, he's 3/10 quicker on his fastest lap than Zippy, so might not be too long before we see them starting to look to push on.
Yeah, we'll see how far up they can make their way through the order. They're all on a very even stop at the moment. It's all going to come down to how fast they want to enter pit lane, or if anyone wants to try and do an undercut. I think for Nick now, if he knows that he's had a fast, or if had a similar length pit stop to Zippy, he might just try and undercut him, because we've seen how strong the undercut can be, Scotty, and you give up roughly 35 seconds in a stop around here. Well, that's going to see Nick come out in some nice clean air between Jeremy Bush and Damon Fisher. There's a little bit more lap traffic in between them as well, but I think that'd be a pretty good spot for him to come out, just set some nice clean laps and try and push on to get past Zippy and pits, because we do know how strong the undercut can be. It's just how willing Nick's going to be, to go for it, as Van der Millen and Haynes is in the pit lane now as well.
Yeah, and he's got Ricky Hyde behind him. Looks like Ricky's going to have this pass. Nick wants to defend this, Hamish. He's brought it across the mid-track. Ricky Hyde's got the overtake going here. There is no doubt he is going to get this done, and absolutely does nail it. Now, crucially, we're talking about the undercut strategy. Crucially here, Zippy Fly is pushing the still air in front of him. Nick Osler had a little bit of draft. He's going to grab the draft now off Ricky Hyde, and perhaps with Ricky Hyde's outright pace, we know he's got fantastic pace. Has been in the top 5, has been driver of the day, driving extremely well for the Phoenix Racing team over there, or 801 Sim Racing. Nick will probably sit behind him and let him take him up to Zippy and work that undercut like you talked about.
Yeah, I mean, we know how strong it can be. We've seen it work as Blanchy comes into pit lane, so he does not want to be put under pressure from Paul Burns, who is starting to heat up onto the back of him. So he wants to come in and get some fresh tyres, lap 34 of 49. It'll be 16 laps to go for Chris when he trolls on around outside of the pit lane towards the finish line. For Paul, pretty much now he just has to push on, try and get the most out of these worn tyres. He came in on lap 12, so he's been out there for 22 laps. Blanchy may actually come out quite a far bit ahead of Paul here. He's done a 19-second stop as he's about to exit pit lane. Blanchy could be on to actually stay ahead of him off this stop, as he has Jamie.
He needs to clear these cars that are coming up the straight now.
Yeah, he's done
absolutely crucial to stay in front.
Yeah, Brett's going to try and go for it down the inside. Can't quite get there for Taylor. So that's worked out well for Blanchy. He can't push too hard to, overheat these tyres. But Brett and Jamie will know that, they're a pit stop behind him. There may not be too much worth trying to attack him at this point, but a position's a position, and if they can maybe cause a mistake from Blanchy, then they can get past, but they're going to have to work hard to try and do it. But for Blanchy, he has to push on as Paul Burns counters the option, comes into pit lane behind Chad Viger, and now takes this next regular stop for the 801 Sim Racing car. So we'll keep an eye on Blanchy. He's down at Dandenong Road. Can he get past Paul Burns and stay ahead of him through this pit stop cycle, as that's Rick Viger spun round down at turn 9. So the night only goes from bad to worse for him here, Scotty, and that luckily didn't slow up Blanchy too much, as Burns is now about to exit pit lane. Where is Blanchy? He's just entered the straight. It's going to be close towards turn 1.
Absolutely, it is crucial for Blanchard to get past the Burns here, coming up into turn one. Has he got the overlap? He's got the overspeed and got it done. Pull it up there, Blanchard, get that rotation into turn one, and his tyres are up to temperature, like you talked about. Burns has got to be careful on this outlap, get his tyres up to temperature, then he might be able to push on and put some pressure on Blanchard. But what a strategy move by Christopher Blanchard from WKMP Sim Sports. This could potentially get him up another position, even potentially a podium position at this stage, Hamish.
Well, Dean Logsdale's just come into the lane. Chad Viger came in with Paul. So he was on the podium when he came into pit lane. Jason Spriggs also now enters the lane too. So this is also going to be close for Chad Viger as well, because he's in a similar spot to where Blanchy was when Paul Burns came in. So this is going to be tight for Chad Viger. Dean Logsdale's exiting, so he's going to remain provisional P2. Jason Spriggs is only just exiting pit lane now. Here he is. So Chad's got a massive gap over him. Blanchy's going to stream past. Or is he going to get past him at turn one? He does, as does Paul Burns, as Barnett comes into pit lane as well. So the leader is in, and they're back into P6, but Weston and Hasler need a pit stop.
That is a massive turnaround on strategies and fuel loads. That little bit of extra fuel that Burns, Spriggs had to put in, that has cost him, and Blanchard has capitalised on this. Chad Viger, where has he come from, Hamish? Where has he been all season? He is driving absolutely fantastic tonight, holding his position down. Currently, he would be P3 on track once Logan Barnett completes his pit stop cycle. Scotty Weston and Nick Horslett complete theirs as well.
So Barnett exits pit lane. He exits behind some lap traffic as Weston comes in, as does Nick Hasler. So the final pit stoppers at the front of the field. The only other driver now that needs to enter pit lane is Jamie Peters, who currently sits P9 but has got to give up some time across this next stop. He's going to stay out though for another lap, so we'll see where Peters ends up after these pit stops. Weston and Hasler now dropping down the order as they are in pit lane at this stage. They're about to exit. Where's Sean? There's Sean there. They're going to come out ahead of... Who's going to come out ahead? I reckon they're going to come out just about with Jeremy Bush. Let's see if I've got this correct. On board with Bush. Oh, this is going to be tight. Oh, my God. How did that not... Okay, so Stoyles was smart then. He did not want to make that 3 wide because he knew his teammate was exiting pit lane, and that could have been very, very dangerous if that did not work out for Scott Weston exiting pit lane. So Bush comes out. He's up 16. He's P13. Weston has exited ahead of Adrian Zeal, so he has actually managed to get the jump on him through this pit stop cycle, has Scott Weston. But Zippy's still ahead of Nick Hasler, so that hasn't worked out well for Nick.
That extra lap pit stop by Zippy Fly got the job done. Otherwise, I think if they'd pitted at the same time, he was in trouble. But that undercut that little bit of green tyres, and we've seen Zippy be able to pull out a little bit of a gap on Nick Halsey. That's a good battle, this one going up. Nick still up 19 positions coming through the final pit stop cycle. But what a fantastic battle that was with Jeremy Bush, Scotty Weston and Stoyles. Really enjoyed that. That was a lot of strategy at play there, Hamish.
Yeah, heap of strategy at play as Bush is into pit lane. So he actually did need one more stop. So Bush and Peters were the last of the pit stoppers. I do apologise. So Jeremy has to come in and sits up in the pit bay. So Jamie Peters has gone another lap. So we'll see when he comes in. Barnett is now up onto the back of Troy Sipple. Some lap traffic gets it done. The next car in front of him is Richard Barella and then Shane Randall. And one thing I want to put forward to you, Scotty, is one strategy that drivers may be able to employ. Now, this is also planning on the fact of if you get no safety cars for the rest of the race, if you know you're going to go a lap down, there is some strategy in actually putting a lap less worth of fuel in your car because you don't need to make it to the end of lap 49 if Logan Barnett gets past you.
Yeah, absolutely. There is that. We did see it in another split where a driver was a short and they realised they weren't going to make it to the line, Hamish. So they actually backed out on the last lap, let the leader go past them. So they actually became a lapped car. The leader finished and they didn't have to complete another lap. So there's a little bit of strategy in that ploy as well, which was interesting. But Logan Barnett absolutely flying here, Hamish. He's clearing these cars, no problem at all. They're being, they're obliging to these blue flags at this stage.
Yeah, so the next car on his radar is Shane Randall, who we spoke about a little bit earlier. He's back in P22. He's got 2 positions to where he started this race. His teammate, Jamie Peters, is now exiting pit lane, so they'll actually roll around together one after another for the second last time in Jamie's run in this team. He has confirmed that he's not planning on joining another team next season due to his other commitments outside of sim racing. He wants to get back to that kind of just more or less privateer running of, you know, doing his own pate and just showing up, having a good race, having a laugh with some drivers and not trying to take it too seriously in season 23. So I know that a lot of teams may want to try and pounce on the opportunity to get Jamie, but knowing and speaking to him, he doesn't seem very interested in joining another team at this stage. He wants to do his own thing going forward.
It's an interesting one. Some drivers will relish in that position, Hamish, and can go the lone wolf style. Maybe that suits Jamie Peters, but perhaps it may struggle in other areas as well. And you know, sometimes the motivation can diminish when you're just by yourself. So keep an eye on this one. And, you know, we may see a resurgence in the future with him joining another team. Obviously, you would want to see him do it at this stage, being fresh out of one and saying he wouldn't want to. But, you know, who knows? Things change. You know, a week is a long, long time in sim racing, mate.
It is indeed. And, you know, more power to Jamie if that's the decision that he wanted to, if that he eventually wants to make. I just know at this stage what he wants, and that's fine. So, you know, it's... Everyone's human, everyone's allowed to change their mind, everyone's allowed to make a different decision. It's never held against anyone, of course. And this was Jamie's decision that he wanted to go out on his own and just try and do his best on his own, which I think fair play to him. It's a tough job to do, and it's one that he wants to try and achieve. So more power to him, and I look forward to seeing how well he goes in his lone wolf stage of V8 Veterans. For Shane, his teammate, well, he's now just been passed by Logan Barnett, so we can kind of see the kind of pace discrepancy from Logan and Shane here, because we know that Shane's former split one, we know that Logan's former split one, but Shane definitely struggling in the Gen 3 car, it seems. And I mean, you can see how planted Logan has that 9.5 Sim Sports car compared to Shane. Shane's having to wrestle this thing around every single corner, where Logan, he is powering forward. I mean, 16.5 seconds is the gap back to Dean Logsdale pretty much. There's a reason that this guy's not dropped the orange number off the side of his car all season. And there's a reason that if he wins tonight, he'll go into the final round as the heavy championship favourite at Phillip Island. Anything can happen, of course, across 300 Ks. But with only 8 laps to go, Scott, he's 8 laps away from putting his name in the honour books as equalising the win record in Split 2 of 6 wins in a single season, alongside Rick Sibra and Steve Kennedy.
Yeah, that is a fantastic achievement, something you should be very proud of. Given, you know, we've talked about it before, where drivers, they may get demoted. We've seen it before, especially in the chat on the V8 Vets Discord. Drivers perhaps get demoted and, you know, they can get a little bit upset about it and get down on themselves and be their own worst, or probably not worst, but harshest critics. And, you know, that's very unfortunate. But with Logan, he didn't do that, Hamish. He went about it with a different mentality. I'm sure he had a few reflection moments where he wasn't very happy with it, but after that he said, no, I'm going to knuckle down and prove my worth. And he's gone about it this season, and he's accepted the challenge. He got on with it, and he's getting the results for his hard work. And I think that was the right attitude for drivers, regardless when we're coming up. And the reason I talk about promotion demotions is there is drivers on that list in Split 2 who are going to be promoted, and there is drivers on that Split 2 list who are going to be demoted.
Yeah, there is indeed, and we don't know how many demotions there will be. We only know how many promotions there will be, which is currently penciled in to be 5. There are talks of possibly 6 happening, depending on how close it is, but we know that it should almost definitely be the top 5 in the championship in terms of best state performances on average. At the moment, Logan Barnett would be locked into that position, being that he is 5 wins out of his 8 top 5s this season. Or it'd be 8 if he finishes where he is. It'd be 9 wins, sorry. So 7 top 5s. Kind of calling the cart before the horse. But, you know, 5 wins across 7 top 5s. If he wins tonight, it's 6 wins from 8 top 5s. It's hard to really, you know, think about him not making split 1 off of that. Because that is a, what is it? It's a 80% win rate somewhat. I mean, it's ridiculous if he were to not go up off of that.
Yeah, we would welcome anyone to the pub test on that one, mate. But, there's a couple of standout performances as well going on. Scotty Weston, we talked about him earlier. He is up 14 positions, Hamish. That is fantastic. Brett Fisher, the brother to Damon from Team AJR, he is up 14 positions. That's a really good result for Brett. Another driver, Ricky Hyde, he's made 10 positions. Not a very good qualifying by himself or his standards tonight, but he has found ground. He has made time. Simon Haynes from Quantum Racing, up 8 positions, got himself back inside the top 10, Hamish, which is a good result for Simon.
Yeah, it is indeed. I mean, he's had a tough run this season and last season as well, had Simon, but it's good to see him back inside the top 10. Not quite living up to the hype that was built for him just yet, but he has had some absolute shining moments previously. I'm excited for the prospects of Simon Haynes and Trent Allen being the contenders at some point for this championship. You know, 2 former Split 3 champions who've come up through the ranks, really been those grassroots drivers who've come up from Split 3 into Split 2 and have them both battle for a championship, you know, of course, for Quantum Racing and for Revolution E Racing as well. But I think that'd be a great championship battle between them because they've both got some incredible skills. I think Trent, you know, he's proved how good he can be. He's already won a race in Split 2. Simon's not quite there yet, but imagine the roar of the crowd when the guy who literally had a clock that was counting down to the day that he could sign up for Vets, if he finally takes a Split 2 win next to his name, that would be pretty incredible.
Absolutely would. And he would be a life of a party to sit down and have a beer with, I am sure. And, it's the Quantum Racing lads there. They went through a little bit of an unsettling stage, Hamish. But it looks like they're starting to find their feet, not only in Split 2, but throughout their splits. And Simon Haynes is showing that tonight. There was big raps on him. It is a good comparison that you meant with, or compared to with Trent Allen. That would be a really good battle to see unfold next season.
Yeah, Dean Logsdale as well. He's had a great season too. He looks to be in a position to go up to Split 1 next season. And, for Dean, this has been he's kind of, they lost Luke Ullman to Split 1 this season, but Dean's really filled that hole well for this team, hasn't he? He's pushing forward. I mean, there's a multitude of drivers who've been doing well. You mentioned Simon Haynes and how good it'd be to see him do well. We've been waiting for Spriggs to get a full season under his belt. And he's proven it this season where he's in championship winning contention and possibility of going up to Split 1 once again. If we look at next season, Scott, based on, we think that if the current top 5 were to go up, which I think is Logan Barnett, Dean Logsdale, Jason Spriggs, Dean Logsdale, Matt Muggleton, Wayne Sanderson. If those were the 5 to go up, well, we can take Muggleton possibly out because Ricky Hyde, if he races next week, would go up.
I think Ricky might be ready for it.
Yeah, I think so too. As Nick Hasler's had a moment down at turn 12, he's gotten going again, but he's dropping spots and he's now down to 19 positions gained instead of 21 at this point, so that's unfortunate for him. I know that Sean Vandermeulen's been getting into a nice battle with the EWT boys as well, but if we look at those 5 who are possibly going up of Barnett, Spriggs, Logsdale, Sanderson and Hyde, out of the names that would be left, aside from drivers obviously who may come down from Split 1 and there's some drivers who go down to Split 3, for the ones who we pretty much know would be locked in to stay in Split 2, who would be your favourite to challenge for a title at this point?
Oh, that's a really good question because we will have probably some pre-qualifiers coming in. Yep. That always ruffles a few feathers, Hamish. But I'm liking Wayne Sanderson at the moment. I'm going for a bit of an outsider. I know you haven't mentioned it, but his consistency again. Yes, he's down 2 positions, but he's still staying in the top 10, and that's crucial for anyone who wants to be in a championship contention. It's all about consistency, and Wayne Sanderson over the last 3-4 rounds has absolutely showed that he can be consistent, hold his own. Yes, he'll maintain around his positions. He's done it again tonight. So I'll go the outsider with someone from Southern Cross Racing.
Well, you said outsider. If he remains in the top 5, he'd be going up to Split 1 as well. He is currently, if he finishes where he is, he'd be in the top 5 of the championship. But I think that if Ricky were to slot in past Matt Muggleton, and if Paul Burns were to sneak in past Wayne Sanderson, I don't hate the pick of Wayne. I think he could definitely be a contender. I think the driver who probably impressed me the most this season, who won't be going up because they've not made enough races, is actually Trent Allen. I think Trent Allen has got championship potential written all over him. He proved it last season in Split 3. He proved it this season when he took his first win. I think next season, if he can make every single round, or at least 8 rounds out of the 10, including the final round, he's going to be right up there in the championship. But I think he could be one to take it, as well as Jason Spriggs has run it wide at turn 1. And he's now going to look to drop a spot to Simon Haynes. Oh my God, it's ultra, ultra close. Side by side up through 2, 3 into 4. Spriggs has somehow held onto it, but Haynes can smell blood in the water. And if he's had the run off of turn 4, he may get this done down at turn 6 in towards the S's. Could it be a breakout performance for Simon Haynes into P6 past Jason Spriggs? He's gotten the job done. And if he could hold on to this here, Scotty, he could be driver of the day possibly. I mean, this has been a great performance from Simple.
He absolutely has driven beautifully, up 9 positions now. Yes, he gained that on the back of a Jason Spriggs mistake, which we haven't seen too much of this season. Perhaps the marble and debris playing a part with that. But yeah, Simon's got it done. Well done to him. That is a great result.
So 20.9 seconds is the gap between P1 of Logan Barnett, the championship leader, and Dean Logsdale in P2. Barnett has made it past the 75% mark of this race, of course, being that it is now the final lap, and the 100 with the orange number next to his name looks to go point to point here tonight at Sandown as he comes round the final few corners in the 9.5 Sim Sports car. Brought to you by the title sponsors of the Vets, Racecraft Simulations. Logan Barnett will go perfect once again and get his 6th win on the board of the season, matching the record previously set by Rick Sibber and Stephen Kennedy. And with 1 race to go to rule them all at Phillip Island, he could line himself up with a 7th to break that record as Dean Logsdale runs down towards the start-finish line as well. Will come home P2, lock himself back into the top 3 of the championship. Chad Weiger will come home on your podium this evening. Chris Blanchard looks to come home with a fantastic top 4 finish with Paul Burns not too far behind. And then Simon Haynes up 9 positions comes home P6 ahead of championship contender Jason Spriggs. Wayne Sanderson, Stacey Boyd and Matt Stoyles will make up your top 10. But for Barnett, it's 1 round to go. And for Barnett, through the droppable rounds outside of round 1, he has had the orange number next to his name every single week. And he'll go into round 10 with it once again.
Yeah, absolutely. Great drive by Logan. He should be extremely proud with that 20-second lead. You had to go back between drivers in P2 to P8 to find the next 20-second gap. That's how much he had extended it. So very good result. P11, my favourite for driver of the day there, Hamish. He up 16 positions. Scotty Weston from EWT Racing. Sean Van Der Meulen, P12. Adrian Zill, good result for Adrian. He's come on lately, Hamish. Up 5 positions into P13. Ricky Hyde made 7 up into 14. Jim Caparonis went down 5 into P15. Still a good result for him after a little bit of trouble there. Brett Fisher, 14 position, stellar drive there. Brett Fisher into P16. Nick Horsler, another great round by him, a man who's starting to find a bit of form here in Split 2, up 19 positions into P17. Brett Taylor down 4 into 18. Dave Arney, not the greatest of races, he shows he's got great pace, lost 17 positions tonight, back down to P19. Jamie Peters, unfortunate again tonight, found trouble early into P20.
Yeah, and then, of course, it was Damon Fisher and Shane Randall for your top 22. These are now the 1 lap, or the lapped traffic. That's how far Barnett got. He lapped up to P21 in this field. Andrew Hoffman, P23. Todd Duggan, Troy Sipple, your top 25. Jeremy Bushmick, Clifton, Derek Lovegrove. The top 28 with Richard Barella, Lorne Mackay, Rick Vargas, Sean Cullen, and Daniel Sheriffs. Unfortunately, 40 laps down. Did not make 75% of the way in this race, meaning that Sean Cullen was the last classified driver in the field this evening. You mentioned Scotty Weston for your front-running pick of driver of the day, Scott. My front-running pick is currently Simon Haynes. So I want to put it to the chat. I'm going to write it out because I think it's only fair. Yep. Since we have 2, it's a 50-50, isn't it?
Yep, let's leave that one to the chat. Simon Haynes or Scotty Weston. They need to get their votes in so we can pick driver of the day. But in the meantime, we can start talking about the championship. This race has been done and dusted, ladies and gentlemen, at Sandown. This is the last drop round for the V8 drivers of Split 2. The points table is out. It's up there. That has 2 drop rounds included in it, so you can see how you're going. I'm sure Hamish will get that up shortly, because that does have some implications for some drivers out there, Hamish, and it's definitely worth talking about and going through a little bit as we come into the final round, season 22 of this V8 Veterans. And, there's a lot of drivers that are trying to consolidate their positions, perhaps give themselves a showing into Split 1. It's on everyone's mind. If you're a driver in Split 2, you definitely want to be chasing up into Split 1 or having fun trying to do so.
Yeah, we'll have a proper standings graphic for next week, but I am just going to quickly bring up my browser with the actual standings on it at the moment from SimRacer Hub. So we'll just quickly bring that up on screen. We'll have a quick chat about. We have got Dean Logsdale waiting to have a chat to us too, so we'll have a chat to him in a moment. Whilst we let the driver of the day votes go out there, at the moment, let's make this a little bit bigger. So of course Logan Barnett leads the way, 1,284 points, I believe it is, if I can read that correctly. Actually, I'll drag it down here, make it a little bit easier. We'll resize once again. Do apologise. I've been absolutely rushed for time today. I'm going to be honest with you, because it's been
probably put you under the pump there, Hamish.
It's all good. It's all
Sorry.
good. It's fine. It's fine.
But it is an interesting talking point, and it's definitely worth looking at for some of the drivers. It's shown Logan Barnett, he has been the standout all season. Every driver in Split 2 knows it. And they've been chasing him. He's driven absolutely fantastic. 24 bonus points, Hamish, no penalty points. That goes a long way to your championship results. Jason Spriggs still in contention, even though he lost that position late in the race to Simon Haynes. He is most certainly in contention, driven absolutely beautifully. If you look at his stats, he's had 9 starts, 8 of them have been in the top 5.
Yeah, they have. It's absolutely ridiculous for him. Dean Logsdale, P3 in the championship at the moment, 1,189 points. Matt Muggleton, who looks to unfortunately miss the final round of the season, did take a win this season, is currently P4, but due to missing the final round will drop well outside of the top 5. So you have to think natural progression of things. Wayne Sanderson will go up 1, Ricky Hyde will go up 1, and so on. Sanderson P5, 1,152 points. Ricky Hyde, 1,137. Paul Burns, 1,136. So he's only... Stacey Boyd, 1,136, only 1 point behind. I am still misreading it. My eyes are gone. 1,137 Ricky Hyde, 1,136 Paul Burns, 1,123 Stacey Boyd. So there's 1 point separating the Air 1 Sim Racing cars. Then it's a bit further back to Stacey Boyd. Chris Blanchard, 1,119. Jim Caparonis, P10, 1,115. So your top 10 is separated by less than a win. But realistically, even though Jim is within mathematical chance, it's pretty outside the realm. Just because there would need to be so many different scenarios that would have to go for Jim to win and for Blanchard to win and for Boyd to win. But there is top 5 opportunities for them. They can make the top 5 with the right scenario. At this stage, the favourites going into the final round to battle for the title is Spriggs and Barnett. They're the only 2 drivers to have finished in 9 rounds of racing. They're the only 2 drivers to finish inside the top 5 8 times. Barnett has finished inside the top 8 in 8 of his 9 races for the top 5. Spriggs has finished inside the top 10 in every single race of the season. So they're both the most consistent drivers out of everyone else. Logsdale is next on the list in terms of consistency. So he would be pretty well, looking good for a podium. And we'll have a chat about that as well.
The interesting one I find, and we touched on it before about Wayne Sanderson's consistency. Now, yes, he's done 9 races, but only 7 races are counted in here. 7 of them, Hamish, have been in the top 10. Now, if you look at Ricky Hyde and Paul Burns, they've had better overall results, with 3 in the top 5 and 4 in the top 5 respectively. But they haven't had that same consistency of 7 races counted in the top 10 like Wayne Sanderson, and that is why he's leading those 2 drivers.
Yeah, and it's consistency wins championships, not more so wins championships. It plays a big part. Logan's been incredibly consistent in terms of the fact of he's had 8 top 5s, 6 of them have been wins. That's why he leads. Spriggs is up there because he's been so consistent. He's never finished outside the top 10 all season, which is phenomenal from him. And 8 of those were in the top 5. So only one time he finished out of the top 5 this season, which was tonight. So he came into Sandown on a perfect record, just like Logan had. Apart from the one round that Logan had finished outside of the top 10. So that's pretty damn close for both of them. But at this stage, we'll have to look through our votes in the chat. And unfortunately for you, Scotty, and for Mr. Weston, it appears, actually, Zippy...
It's very close, very close.
Zippy voted for Weston. Sanderson voted for Haynes. Benny voted for Scotty Weston. Vandermill and Scott voted for Haynes. Ullman voted for Haynes. So I think at this point, if my math is correct, Fisher voted for Weston. Have we had a tie?
I'm unsure. We just need Scotty Weston to come in and vote for himself, and we'll be right.
Yeah. Or for Haynes to vote for himself, who is in the chat.
Imagine if they both do, we're still tied.
I know,
Oh my
I know.
God.
Well, the rest of the chat needs to vote. Simon Haynes or Scott Weston. We need to break this tie, otherwise we're going to have a wheel spin. We'll drag in Mr. Logsdale, though, who's been eagerly waiting to have this chat with us. Mr. Logsdale, congratulations. P2 on the road tonight. You're back into the top 3 in the championship, and next week, if you can get a positive result for yourself, you'll make it 2 Team AJR cars in Split 1 for the first time ever. Mate, congratulations on an epic season thus far. How are you feeling after tonight's results?
Yeah, no, I was really pleased with that, Hamish. It was just about staying consistent and trying to get a good result. I didn't have anything for Logan again, so it was just trying to keep the others behind me, and Dad certainly put a lot of pressure on, so he kept me honest for a fair bit. I just had to, try and break the toe from him, and from there it was just driving a steady race.
Well, it was a great result again, Dean, and a race that you should be proud of. We didn't cover you too much in the broadcast tonight, but that is a good thing at times for drivers, because that does show, that they're going along and going about their race, which is kind of what you did. How did you maintain your focus once you broke the draft to P3 behind you in Chad Viger? How'd you go about maintaining your focus for the next 20 plus laps?
Just a case of hitting all my markers, try not to outbreak myself, try and stay smooth, conserve the tyres, and make sure I hit all the apexes. Just trying to be mistake-free and keep an eye on the gap behind me.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you've done that beautifully. You've driven beautifully this season. There has been a resurgence in especially we've talked about quite a few times from halfway through this season, how you've gone about your racing, changed a few things. What is it that you have changed, that you're starting to find that consistency, that results that you've been craving, especially last season, that weren't coming your way, but you've managed to find it? What's changed there for Dean Logsdale over at Team AJR?
I think I've just really been concentrating on not over-driving, not making any mistakes, trying to cut that out. I've really been focusing on trying to qualify well, because it makes such a big difference. And obviously having the likes of Logan and Briggs in front of me, it's someone I can chase and hold on to. Briggs, that is. Unfortunately, the greatest race on Thursday, but it's just that, just trying to stay consistent and make them silly mistakes that have been costing me.
Well, it absolutely is working for you, driving beautifully, and congratulations once again on your P2 tonight, mate.
No, I appreciate it, Scott, and I just want to shout out to the AJR boys. Great team, really enjoy the company, and we all support each other, and it's good to see Zippy, starting to improve and get some confidence back, and I know he's got some pace at Phillip Island, and in the top 10, and same with Damo. He just needs to get a bit of confidence, because I know when we were passing last week for Sandown, he was well on the pace, and I wasn't confident in beating him. That's for sure. He was certainly capable of a podium at Sandown first time that he went off.
Well, Dean, we're going to let you go. Best of luck next week for Phillip Island. Thanks so much for coming to have a quick chat to us here this evening, and best luck in your hopes of getting in this top 5 for Split 1 promotion next season.
No, I appreciate it. Thanks, Hamish. Thanks, Scott. Yeah. Bye.
Maybe that's why Dean's so quick this season, Scott. He's joined us as an AI now.
Yeah, absolutely. There was definitely some computer chat going on there, because have you heard computers chat? They do sound a little bit like that together. Or when they do that AI chat. I was watching it the other day. Quite entertaining the way they can communicate these days in technology in PC language. Yeah, I did read the chat there, Hamish. Have we given it to Simon Haynes before?
We have apparently this season, so it has actually now been decided. Well, it's decided in the fact of that we forgot our own rule and we forgot that we already gave it to Simon Haynes this season. But I think well deserved though for Scotty Weston to take driver of the day tonight, because I mean it was between the two of them, and I think that both of them were as deserving as each other. But because we want to stick to the rule of giving it to someone different each week, without giving it to the winner, I think Scotty is more than deserving. I mean, up 16 spots in an incredible race. P11, he's just outside of the top 10 in this one. A great effort from Scott Weston, I think well deserved for driver of the day.
Yeah, absolutely. And I did see Simon, what a gentleman of him. He voted for Scotty Weston in the chat to break a tie anyway. So that is great sportsmanship and a part of what a Vets is about. But well done, Scotty Weston from EWT Racing. A fantastic result for him. Found himself well inside the top 15, like you talked about, Hamish. Drove a clean race. Very hard to make positions like he did here at Sandown. 16 position, that's a phenomenal amount gained at this track.
Definitely has a lot of track confidence and confidence in the overtaking opportunities that you can get around here. And I think as well as just getting some confidence in terms of where he can push the car and where he can push for those overtakes as well. But yeah, congratulations to Scotty Weston, this week's driver of the day, brought to you by Chubby Buns Burgers. A big thank you to them for supporting the series once again as well. Of course, so Scotty, tonight we've had the absolute pleasure of rocketing around this beautiful Sandown circuit out in Victoria. And next week, we only go an hour away down to the absolutely wonderful Phillip Island Raceway here in Victoria for 300k, 68 laps of absolute insanity, and I think it's going to be a hell of a way to end out this championship.
It absolutely is. It is a track that many of these drivers, and in fact I'd say almost all of them, are very familiar with. It was a track when Gen 3 first came out, a lot of drivers headed to Phillip Island to test this car out there, and had a lot of fun and done a lot of laps early in. So I think it's going to be quite a familiar tyre wear. Perhaps is going to be an issue in the drop off, Hamish, 300 kilometres, and how these drivers manage it over that distance. Perhaps a couple of engines. People are going to have to drive a little bit different to manage those tyres and the engine life, I think. So that'll be on the back of the minds, especially on those top runners or those who want to make more positions, a non-drop round. Fantastic. Cannot wait to watch this and broadcast it with you, Hamish. It's going to be absolutely awesome.
Yeah, I think it will, and it'll be such a great way for us to end out our first season of Gen 3 Supercars. A big thank you, though, has to go out to all of our series sponsors, of course. Racekraft Simulations, the title sponsors of the V8 Vets, for continuing to support the series. Logitech G, Parramatta, Isuzu Ute, Play One Sim Gear, Nova Sim Sports, Sudspeak, Gloves, LGC Images, and Chubby Buns Burgers for their Driver of the Day award. Tonight, it went the way of Scotty Weston. Next week, it could go to you. But until next time, we appreciate you being here with us once again, ladies and gentlemen. A big reminder that sign-ups for Season 23 are live to the Vets community in the Discord until 5 p.m. Victorian time next Thursday night. This coming Thursday, the Thursday of the final round at Phillip Island, sign-ups will go to the open public at 5 p.m. So be sure to lock in your spot. If you're confused about where you can get it done, check the Browse Channels section of Discord. Make sure that the Season 23 category is selected to be followed, and you'll see every single category and every single channel in there, including S23 registration, where you register for next season. But I've been Hamish Munro, joined by Scott Gamble once again here for round number 9 of Season 22 of the Racekraft Simulations V8 Veterans Split 2 action out at Sandown. We'll see you guys next week out at Phillip Island for our championship decider. Can Logan Barnett make it 7 wins for the first time ever in Split 2, or will Jason Spriggs and the gods have something to say about Barnett's chances of winning this championship? You'll have to tune in and find out. But until then, stay safe, drive hard, and as always, Bye for now.
I ain't playing weak, no, I'm playing for keeps. Can't stop me, I'm a legend. I run with the crew that's making the moves. Get out of the way, we coming through. We got this, never stopping, and we won't lose. No, we can't lose. Yeah! Are you ready? Yeah! We are the legends. We are the legends. Yeah! Are you ready? We are the legends. We are the legends.
The Racing Series is a new milestone in Logitech G.
All the great old wheels, the G29, the G920, the G923, they all have their own unique way of connecting to each other, but there's no room for expansion with those products.
So the question arose was, what if we were to give the opportunity for the racer to switch out from a drifting wheel to a GT rim?
With the wheel hubs that we created, that's got a very specific button set, but you can replace any of the steering wheels.
And the real lovely aspect to this was we could give the user, driver and the racer the opportunity to experience different genres of race.
That allows drivers to craft high quality, customized setups that resonate with your individual racing style.
When we start with the design, we always start sketching. Very often, once we've got sketches, we start discussing with engineering.
We had 3 rounds of engineering testing or user testing where we invited in users from sim racing, and every single round of feedback we refine, the product based on what they tell us.
In this sim racing lab, again, we're going to use data to really analyze what a driver needs. We've used everything from eye tracking to the inputs from the pedals, the inputs from the, let's just say, input devices, the wheel and the pedals, the shifter. We're taking that and we're compiling it so that we can build different products based on those individuals' needs for all consumers and all drivers.
I don't know of anyone else in the industry that's actually doing this kind of research into their products to see how their products are affecting performance of their users.
We've built the product to make sure that it's as reliable as possible.
So the innovations in engineering that I'd say we're most proud of is the sequential handbrake and shifter toolless changeover. This is now a patented system, so it's really easy for the user to just switch between modes.
If you give people the tools to do what they want, they will.
They will just go off and have fun.
Introducing the Racekraft PT1, custom-built full chassis racing simulator. The design project, codenamed The Cage, an 80/40 extrusion chassis sitting on top of a Sigma Integrale DK2 Plus 4-point full motion actuator system. No compromises in the cockpit of the PT1 simulator. To maximize the experience, we start with the 49-inch ultra-wide monitor for the greatest field of view in a small footprint of the simulator, down to the SimuCube wheelbase that's tucked up and behind the monitors with SimCore extensions to get things out of the driving area. Everything is connected to a Cube Controls GTX steering wheel with the built-in dash and all the extra button functions available at your fingertips. Driving through the Raceworks S1 pedals, the potentiometer throttle and the 2 hydraulic pedals for brake and clutch ensures you maximize the feel underfoot, and seating yourself into an OMP HTER bucket racing seat with OMP belts connected to a G-belt tensioner to provide that extra feeling and the heightened experience while you're driving. Additional interfaces and accessories in the PT1, we have twin butt kickers, one on either side of the OMP seat, as well as a Jinx sequential shifter, the SimPush Race Logic timer to the left-hand side, a Racecraft built-in WinSim kit with Philips Hue lighting and a built-in soundbar, plus the OMP side net to finish off the experience in the PT1. The Racecraft PT1, build number 1, the ultimate in sim racing experience, combining the best products in the market with the passionate, no compromise approach that goes beyond racing simulation.